And black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them.
Well, if he's right, then why didn't people vote for the former prosecutor who actually had policy plans to help the working class?
Stop saying that Whoopi Goldberg getting yanked from The View right after she attacked me on The View is karma. There's no such thing as karma, sorry.
As if it were his full-time job, Bill Maher is out to shatter woke arguments, and Whoopi Goldberg is his newest victim. The actress, with her growing repertoire of embarrassing comments, kind of brought it on herself, let's face it. Maher has not only criticized her since 2022, but he has also methodically taken her down piece by piece. His attack was so vicious that it made Whoopi duck for cover like a cartoon character evading falling anvils. What specifically did Goldberg say this time to incite Maher's unbridled anger then? And how was the woke crowd left in turmoil by his abrupt return? Don't worry, we've included all the important information here. Get on your seatbelts, people. This isn't just a rocky ride, it's a roller coaster.
We have got to get past this endless, unforgiving, zero-tolerance mindset bent on punishing and disappearing anyone caught saying the wrong thing. The right response to speech you don't like is more speech.
Whoopi Goldberg is now confronted with the unpleasant truth of her actions after stirring up controversy, and it's not at all elegant. Recall how Bill Maher ripped Sunny Hostin to pieces in our last film when he attempted to misrepresent his words? The View team, however, is not going to take that defeat lightly this time. Apparently on a vendetta to settle the score, Whoopi Goldberg enters the scene. Maher apparently called in reinforcements since Sunny was unable to withstand the heat she brought. Whoopi Goldberg, she showed up with full force, prepared to compete like a contestant on a reality show that no one had signed up for, I can assure you.
Black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them.
Well, if he's right, then why didn't people vote for the former prosecutor who actually had policy plans to help the working class?
The classic Whoopi Goldberg, as though it were her sacred text, flicking through the woke playbook. When your disagreement begins to deteriorate like the Titanic, she fabricates a straw man and attacks with full force. Bill Maher made it abundantly evident that Black Americans want better employment, a strong economy, and responsible law enforcement. It's simple, isn't it? When Whoopi intervenes, she talks endlessly about helping a former prosecutor with working class efforts. Does that make sense? Definitely not. Do you get the reasoning? Not, of course, since there isn't any. She seems to be tossing darts while wearing a blindfold in the hopes that something may land. It doesn't, to be clear, and Bill Maher wasn't going to ignore that. This time, Bill Maher wasn't holding back.
Tear down statues of Lincoln and get rid of the police. Just, no, it's not that I've gotten old, it's that your ideas are stupid.
The coherence of Whoopi's thoughts is probably lacking, he pointed out, a characteristic that The View is all too familiar with. The show has become the political talk show equivalent of a train accident, which is painful to watch, but oddly fascinating. It is infamous for having controversial and, let's face it, questionable views on almost everything. But with their blatantly ridiculous comments, Sunny Hostin and Whoopi Goldberg have escalated the chaos to a whole new level. Recall that Charlemagne the God nearly seemed to wonder whether he had entered a different reality when he ventured to appear as a guest.
All of the criticism is valid because, Democrats stand on this moral high ground all the time and, they act so self-righteous. The reality is he didn't have to say anything in regards to, whether or not, his son wanted to be pardoned. He could have said, hey, man, I'm not focused on that right now.
And there it is, another embarrassing moment from Whoopi Goldberg, the queen of cringe. When President Biden said that no one is above the law, Whoopi genuinely said that he wasn't lying this time. Sincerely, Whoopi, a mountain of proof, including audio records, movies, and most likely even prehistoric cave paintings, demonstrate that he made that same claim.
I'm gonna stop you for a second.
Uh-oh.
Only because you don't know that it was a lie. We don't know why he changed
You really think he just changed his mind over Thanksgiving weekend all of a sudden?
No, I'm gonna tell you what I think.
Okay. Yeah.
I think he changed his mind because he got sick of watching everybody else get over.
Seeing Whoopi spread a flagrant lie is like witnessing someone standing under a clear, cloudless sky and insisting that the sky isn't blue. Whoopi's mental gymnastics could get her a berth in the Olympics at this point, but even there, she would probably falter due to her own logic. Charlemagne's reaction to Whoopi's comments was one of obvious disbelief, but she didn't stop there. It's possible that President Biden changed his stance because he was tired of everyone surpassing him, Whoopi continued. She made claims that left Charlemagne stunned and unable to speak.
So I'm just gonna follow the straight and narrow always, because that's what's expected of Democrats.
But that's their fault. They're the ones that
You're
go out.
mis-
They're the ones that go out there and they stand on this moral high ground. They don't have to do that.
Their problem is that the so-called woke mob only calls attention to misbehavior when the perpetrator is not a member of their limited inner group. However, when the offender is a member of their own group, the fury soon turns into tacit defenses or a convenient case of selective forgetfulness. Naturally, Charlemagne's appearance on the show allowed Whoopi and her group to avoid responsibility. But when Bill Maher learnt of their shenanigans, he said, "Hold my beer," and gave one of the sharpest vocal rebuttals we've seen in a long time.
You love to speak truth to power, and we always should, but you have completely lost the ability to speak truth to bull.
Maher's own words couldn't have been more accurate. Everyone can see the hypocritical standards of the so-called awakened mob, who love to show off their status as the ultimate judges of morality and truth. Consider the case of Hunter Biden. Quite simply, guilty as accused. However, Hunter leaves without even a slap on the wrist because his father is the one in the Oval Office with the power. If it were anyone else, the crowd would be clamoring for their head. However, when it's one of their own, favoritism easily takes precedence over justice. When Maher called it out for what it is, he was right on the money. It's the height of hypocrisy, an outright farce. Now, the most important question is, how long will Americans put up with this dishonest behavior? This is about more than simply Hunter. It's about a system that continuously throws the book at everyone else, while going above and above for the powerful. Not only was Maher's takedown punctual, but it also acted as a warning to everyone who was still holding on to the idea of justice. But it gets even more interesting from here. The awakened movement frequently gets support from the mainstream media, Maher pointed out.
Was it appropriate to bury the Hunter Biden?
You're talking about the press doing that?
He's saying that's what they did, and that is what they did. They buried the Hunter Biden story before the election because they were like, we can't risk having the election thrown to Trump. We'll tell them after the election.
And we know for a fact that that's what they did?
Of course, you don't
but
follow
I mean,
this.
saying you know for a fact that that's what they did. I don't know what they did.
I know, because you only watch MSNBC.
No, that's not true.
Maher got it exactly right. The women of The View, particularly Whoopi Goldberg, are not merely awake. They are like a group of rapacious sharks, constantly circling and prepared to devour anyone who doesn't share their beliefs. They don't approach argument with the goal of finding the truth or having meaningful conversations. It's about using sneaky grins and sardonic remarks to silence critics and impose their ideology. With a casual wave, Whoopi in particular has perfected the art of dismissing opposing viewpoints as though they are nothing. Maher, however, was not intimidated. By confronting them head-on, he exposed their real strategies, bullying under the guise of action. His constant exposure of their duplicity to an audience tired of biased narratives is no surprise, as he has turned into a thorn in their side. A room full of monotonous and repeated discussions is broken up by Maher's takedowns, which are refreshing.
Above any matters of politics or what's right or wrong, the one thing I know for sure about America is this. It's run by mean girls. Mean girls in the press and in politics and in life. And when they smell blood in the water, the lust to finish off a vulnerable person will never be denied.
With Trump's win, Mark wants the woke mob to face reality and quit clinging to their fantasies. He did not cheat for the election, steal it, or make it happen. No matter how much his message angered the progressive left, millions of Americans found resonance in it, and he won it handily. Rather than accusing Russia, racism, or whatever new scapegoat is popular on Twitter this week, perhaps it's time to accept that democracy occasionally results in the victory of the opposing side. It's not a broken device. As soon as they stop playing the victim and begin planning, the system will function as it should. They will have a stronger chance in 2028 or even 2032.
Democrats run for office as if the voters don't live here, as if they don't go to the grocery store and Starbucks and the office, but they do. But a poll last year asked, if America is the greatest country in the world, more blacks and Hispanic Americans agreed with that than the white progressives. It asked if racism is built into our society. White progressives agreed with that at higher levels than black and Hispanic people. It asked if government should increase border security. Same result. Hispanic Americans are less okay with illegal immigration than whitey.
Once again, Bill Maher gets it right. Not all Trump supporters are establishing MAGA rallies in their backyards or swearing loyalty to golden statues. Many were fed up with the awakened mob's increasing contempt for basic reason and the Democrats' esoteric speeches. so they just held their noses and voted. Because of Trump's infamous tanning bed appearance and his tweets, voters did not support him. They did it because the alternative was like listening to a self-righteous vegan speech at a barbecue. Perhaps the left should avoid alienating the middle class by embracing every radical notion from the activist playbook and instead concentrate on what the ordinary American finds appealing if it hopes to win.
Said there's a coalition of Trump voters, people who really like him. They certainly are those. And then there's people who don't necessarily like him that much, but they still think he's less crazy than stuff that strikes them as aggressively anti-common.
Without a doubt, it's comedic gold. Bill Maher laughed at the ridiculousness of it all, and rather than just putting the last nail in Whoopi Goldberg's coffin, he almost built it. The self-proclaimed high priestess of the woke movement, Whoopi, challenged Maher for having the gall to think for herself. She made a huge mistake in judgment. Maher's return was a classic Bill moment, insightful, raw, and wonderfully scathing. He brought attention to the absurdity of a co-host from The View, a program that takes pleasure in providing a forum for a range of viewpoints, calling him out for holding a viewpoint that she doesn't share. Do you not find it a little ironic? It appears that an organization that constantly promotes tolerance only accepts ideas that align with their own. Maher, as usual, would have none of it.
Saying that Whoopi Goldberg getting yanked from The View right after she attacked me on The View is karma. There's no such thing as karma, sorry. Sorry, but life is random. The only word to describe it when a big game hunter gets trampled by an elephant and then eaten by lions is hilarious.
He revealed the hypocrisy of the woke echo chamber in which Whoopi and her group operate, when dissent is viewed as heresy and tribal loyalty takes precedence over true critical thought. When Maher dismantled their feeble arguments, it was like seeing Picasso produce a masterpiece using logic and sarcasm as his tools.